rather quite close. Survivors of Shreela, we're going to have some further tributes, jolly tributes about Shreela the public person. Picture it, Shreela is having tea at Windsor Castle reception with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, with whom, actually the Duke of Edinburgh, she shared a rather mischievous sense of humour. Sometimes both of them got into rather hot water. So Shreela has come. He tells me they've got a new badge of chain of office, which I thought was a pity because it would have been wonderful if he'd been wearing the same one as before. And things were not very rosy. This was 1986, and as one Anthony Crossman had said, the party was over. It seems to have been over now as well. But it was over in the 80s as well. We pulled through, so we might pull through. No, we will pull through. And she suddenly got that twinkle in her eye, and she leant towards the Queen. She leant over and said, "You know, if you were to pay your rates, ma'am, our budget worries would disappear." There was an almighty pause. The Queen, of course, is exempt from rates. Would she be sent to the Tower? Or would the Queen take it as one of Shreela's famous teasing jokes? Well, you know the answer. The Queen rocked back on her heels and burst out laughing, matching Shreela's own echoing laugh, and they became even firmer friends. Humour and the courage that we heard about are two watchwords for Shreela. I think now we're at the party that she wanted, the celebration, and we're going to focus on the humour and the public person. So welcome to this wonderful party. Thank you for being here. And we've got some wonderful, wonderful speakers. We're going to start with Curran, Lord Villamoria, who became a close colleague of Shreela on the crossbenches of the House of Lords, and in fact has a wonderful story about how Shreela encouraged him. He's also currently chair of the Memorial Gates in London, about which we'll hear more later. Curran.
Paul, thank you very much. I think before I even start saying anything, all of us, wow, what a service. What a beautiful service sheet. Paul and Marcus and everyone involved was just absolutely amazing. And I could just picture Shreela looking down on us, and I think she would have been very, very happy and very, very proud of her sons, and to see all of you there. Occasion like this, people say, "How long did you know Shreela? When did you meet Shreela?" We've all got our own stories. And I was talking to Jitesh Gadia, there's Jitesh, when did he met Shreela before I did? Soon after she joined the House of Lords, we were a banker, young banker, straight out of university. I remember very clearly meeting her through our friend Julie Barnes, who was at the Maidenhead Advertiser. She was the journalist who knew Shreela really well. And at our wedding, she said, "You've got to meet this. She's a Baroness, and she's an amazing lady, and she's starting this new thing called Asian Link, and I'm sure she'll want you to join it." And I've just started to prepare, and I'm just starting my business, and I said, "No, you've got to do it." And that's how I met Shreela. And she started Asian Link. That's when I first stepped into Parliament, into the House of Lords. She'd have these regular events, bring in cabinet ministers, and out of that group of us, Sailesh Vara became an MP and a minister. Then I joined the House of Lords. I've been there for 18 years now. Then Jitesh joined the House of Lords. Dinesh Dhamija became a member of the European Parliament. None of that would have happened without Shreela Flather. And then, of course, we got roped into the Memorial Gates. I mean, it was an adventure. In 1998, she started working on it. And of course, it was, and there are many people here who were involved. It was a tough journey. I mean, first, who was interested? Then, no, you can't do it. And everything was impossible. And of course, Shreela, the word impossible did not exist in her vocabulary. And she made it happen. And there is no question about it. Those gates would not exist without Baroness Shreela Flather. That's I remember those of you there and people like Shreela who supported us so much, Basham and all her friends here, you know, raising the money. The architect of gates, he's over here. Ben, who worked on the trial, Ben's over here. And of course, General Evelyn Webb Carter and Celia, they're here. You know, someone's continued supporting them that day, 2002. Her Majesty the Queen came and inaugurated those gates. And the lawyer. Where's Vijay Sharma? There we are, Vijay Sharma. The lawyer, exactly. So there's so many of us here who are involved in it, and it is flourishing now. We have this ceremony every year that is so beautifully attended. The council members are over here, and two of the council members are over here at the Memorial Gates. I can see you dotted around, and Major Mani Rai, who workers who runs the ceremony, and Jerry's over there. It's amazing. Paul's there. Yeah, so this is fantastic. It's a whole team effort that makes this happen. So I just want to give you a little example of Shreela. This is the last time she addressed the Memorial Gates, and this was in the 2002 ceremony. You can remember, it's always on Commonwealth Day, which is in March. And what had happened in the February, just days before in 2002, the Ukraine war had started. And I will just read out 2022 is when the Ukraine war started. And so this is what she said, days after the Ukraine war started. It is 20 years since we opened these memorial gates, and I'm gratified that over that time the awareness and appreciation of the huge contributions to our war efforts made by some 5 million Commonwealth soldiers is so much more widely shared. The war raging again on the continent of Europe makes it all the more poignant to recall such sacrifices in the past. We owe this to the memory of all Africans, West Indians, and Indians who fought for us in the two great wars. They knew which was the right side. I hope all Commonwealth countries, all democracies, remember that and come out on the right side and not hide below the parapets. Now, who else would say that? But how right she was. So, all I can say in concluding is, we also remember Paul so well. Paul, what you have done, you've now joined the council. You're going to carry on your mother's legacy. And today you demonstrated that. Marcus, you as well. And your father, let's remember Gary. What a wonderful man. What a genuinely bright, clever. His illness didn't stop him from doing anything. We were commissioners of the Royal Hospital in Chelsea for 6 years, and he was there, and he chaired committees, and he was on top of everything, much more than any of us. What a great man he was, and what a great couple they were, devoted to each other. And the carers we have here, we've got Bernadette over here, Alice, Tracy, people who lovingly cared for Shreela. We must appreciate what you've done recently. Finally, I close with this. These occasions, of course, were sad. Of course, we're missing Shreela. But the most important thing is this. That people like her, she may have left this mortal world, but her inspiration, which has inspired so many of us and will continue to inspire people generations from now, that inspiration will live on forever. So thank you, Shreela.
Yes. Trevor Phillips, Sir Trevor, who's a broadcaster and equalities campaigner par excellence, who served with Shreela on many key bodies and committees. And he's going to focus a little bit on her work with race and with ethnic minorities and the community. Trevor.
Thank you very much, Paul. Paul's told you what I'm going to talk about, but in the spirit of Shreela, he's set out what my agenda is, so I'm going to completely ignore it. And talk a bit about the woman I knew. Paul and I, a moment ago, were trying to recall whether I met her first or I met him first. And actually, neither of us can remember because Paul and I have known each other, what, now nearly half a century? And I don't know whether I met Shreela before him or after. It took me a few years to work out that they were related.
We were in different parties.
Different, yeah. Never mind the politics. That was a whole other thing. And then character. Now, I just want to say, before anything else, Shreela Flather was probably pound for pound the naughtiest person I had. And I was looking at this today, and I was looking at the obituaries written by one of my colleagues at the Times, and there's a phrase that struck me, which made me think that right now, that laugh is rocketing around heaven. Most of us would say we live in Maidenhead, and we live close to the Windsor Castle, and that's where the Queen, or King now, lives. So we live close to royal family. What this says is, she came to Royal Borough of Windsor Maidenhead. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip were fellow residents. In that sentence, who's the person that matters? This is, I think she would love that, and she would have, in her own way, that slightly deliberately provocative way, have been writing that. I genuinely cannot recall how and when we first met. It feels to me like this is a person, there wasn't a time in my life before, certainly my adult life, before my knowing her. She was a great mentor for all of us, people of colour, of younger people. She reached out and she made us her own. She made us her mentees. We didn't ask for it, but she brought us in, embraced us. And she was always there, ready to steer us a little bit, but in her own particular way. I'm not sure, this is a private gathering, so I'm just going to tell you this, but nobody's supposed to tell anybody else. A long time ago, this is 1979, I was getting married, and I was going to be married to someone who comes from an Indian family. And anybody who knows Mumbai will know what I mean when I say the words Malabar Hill. Malabar Hill is it's actually I think one of the most expensive and prestigious district in the entire world. And my first wife, part of her family came from there. She is Parsi. And anybody who knows Parsis will know that this is a very particular, very brilliant, but tiny community. And it's part of the reason it's tiny is that Parsis never imagined marrying somebody who's not a Parsi. So you can imagine she's bringing me home. And there was sort of a little bit of puzzlement. How are we going to deal with this? Particularly with a family in Mumbai, because you have to talk to the family about this thing. And anyway, so I remember having a conversation with Shreela, and she said to me, "Oh, how are you going to explain it to the fathers in then Bombay?" I said, "I have no idea." She said, Anybody who knows that community will know that it is smart, very sort of rather inward looking, but also very loyal to Britain. I wouldn't use the word snobbish, but they have a very clear idea of who's good and who's not good. And she said, "You know what? I've got an idea." And I said, "What's the idea?" She said, "Do you have a photograph of yourself? Because I know you've been with them, with any member of the royal family." As it happens, there is a photograph of me dancing with the Queen Mother. She said, "Fine, send that and there will be no trouble." And you know what? We sent it and there was no trouble. This is a woman of great cleverness, sinuousness of mind, and it's not a surprise that she was able to pull off the gates in a way that nobody else would have been able to do. I have no idea what she did, but most of us have been in rooms where we walk in expecting to do X, she walks in, and suddenly we're all doing Y. But she was never somebody who wasn't clear about who and what she was. And the serious point that I want to make about Shreela Flather, which is a lesson for us now, is that she had a particular kind of bluntness and courage. In our business, in some part of what we do in politics, we would say that she's somebody who marched towards a sound of gunfire. When there's trouble, she wasn't going somewhere else, she was going in to sort it out. So when you hear her talk about cousin marriage, about political correctness, about assisted dying, she could have decided not to, but she wanted things to be right. And she wanted the fight to be had, so we got the right result. And she did it with charm, but also with this iron will and certainty about what she believed. We call such a person in our team a steel magnolia. Completely, on the face of it, slightly delicate, attractive flower, but don't think you're ever going to bend that flower. The other thing I want to say about her, I've had a few troubles of my own. One or two mild disagreements, well, with everybody, but including with her. But she always had your back, even when she was wagging her finger at your face. Always had your back. And she taught me 3 big lessons which I still live with. First of all, she believed in this country without reservation. Without reservation. But that doesn't mean she was deferential, because she expected this country to give back to its people everything it promised, including equality without qualification, patriotism without illusions. Secondly, she had mission. There are many people who are in public life. Some of you know that I have a Sunday morning hobby interviewing politicians. And quite often, more often than not, to be frank, there are moments when you look into somebody's eyes and you are asking them the question, why are you here? And you know that they can't give you an answer because they themselves don't know. She always knew what she was there for. Landscape for a kind of independence for you as an individual, but also a demand that you take responsibility for your own fate. And I know that sometimes got her into hot water with various people. And lastly, which is a very unusual quality now in public life. No necessity to be liked or loved by people for whom she had very little regard. And she didn't tell you, she didn't mess about when she wanted to tell you she had no regard for you. She was always pretty clear when you had fallen short of her expectations. Because actually in this relationship there's only one set of expectations that are met. But I think one of the reasons that she didn't mind being talked about in negative ways, perhaps not being liked, is because she knew that she was loved by Gary, by Paul, by Marcus. One of the things that was absolutely, there are few people I know or knew who are so secure in their own being, and that I think is a big lesson for me. One of my friends said to me a few years ago when my family suffered a loss, there's an expression that another community uses, may her memory be a blessing. And I couldn't understand what this meant. And he explained it to me in this way. He said that there are some people who, through their life, make such an impression on everybody they encounter. They change the people they meet. And that even when they're gone, you can see their presence in the imprint that they have left on everybody else. And I think just the fact that we're here today is an indication of that. And I think there are very few people that I know who left as much of an imprint as Shreela Flather. She may not be here bodily, but she is here in every single one of us. She left her imprint on us, and that's a wonderful thing. And say, Paul, Marcus, family, may her memory be a blessing.
And I'm going to read a few lines, just very briefly. So the Speaker of the House of Lords, Lord McFall, said that Shreela's forthright approach, zest of life and strong sense of humour were respected by members across the House. The Chair of the Royal British Legion, with whom Memorial Gates have done marvellous work, Jason Coward, has said that her role in setting up the memorial will be a lasting tribute and is greatly admired across the world. Mayor Neil Knowles, now the current mayor of the Royal Borough of Maidenhead and Windsor, she was a dedicated public servant nationally and locally. Baroness Patricia Scotland, a particular friend who is abroad but would have loved to be here, talked about her humour, her candour and her thirst for justice. The Lord Lieutenant for Berkshire, Shreela, was a DL for many, many years, said that she was a highly valued member of the team. And Lady Butterworth, who's the chair of the Women's Council, thank you for coming, and also with your CEO, said that she was steadfast and generous in her support for the organisation. Now, I'd like to call on General Sir Evelyn Webb-Carter, who will tell us how she pulled off the gates, because we've heard that it was a triumph.
It was in May 1997, at the state opening of Parliament, that Shreela sat next door to my father-in-law, Celia's father. In itself, not a very significant event, but Shreela's family and that of my father-in-law were very much linked and had known each other since the beginning of the century in India, because my father-in-law's father served in the Indian Army most of his life. Shreela wrote subsequently, and we still have the letter. She wrote to my father-in-law, "All my life, chance meetings have led to wonderful things. If we had not sat next to each other at the state opening, we may never have met." Afterwards, they had lunch together in the House of Lords, and so with my wife as well, and so a friendship was born. I returned from Bosnia later that year to take command of London District, and I was tasked by Charles Guthrie another of Shreela's great admirers, to take on the task of recruiting ethnic minorities into the Brigade Guards. We had, up to that time, a lamentable record. Celia thought Shreela would help, and indeed she did. And she introduced me to many Muslim, Hindu, and Sikh contacts. And really, through that, I built up a network which was enormously helpful. I remember she had wonderful parties in the House of Lords, which were invaluable in the whole business of networking. By 2001, as I left the army, much had been achieved, and the stigma of racial prejudice had been much reduced. Shreela frequently stayed in our house in London, and I looked up in our visitors book, and she put Shreela Flather, and where the address should be, she put family. So difficult, really. And so that was the time of the gates, the design, the construction, and of course, fundraising. And Celia happened to know the Western family, Fortnum and Mason, the Garfield Western Foundation, and so forth. And this led to one of the first major donations of 100,000 for the gates. And many of us will remember the inauguration by the Queen in November 2002, and I was involved in some of the organisation of it. And as a result, Shreela insisted on me joining the council. And so over the last sort of 20 years or so, with Field Marshal Chapel and others, we've had our adventures in maintaining the status of the gates. And I remember with enormous affection as I look at her image by the mirror of, it's been said before, her sense of humour, that laugh, and that robust approach to difficulties. She was very fond of generals, by and large. And she would say to me from time to time, "You are no fierce general. You're just a pussycat." What a wonderful tribute to her. The gates, a lasting memorial for the soldiers of the Empire and our Commonwealth who gave their lives in 2 World Wars and since. And it is, as others have made the point, a singular memorial also perhaps to her lifetime of service. So, farewell, Shreela, from a pussycat.
Thank you, Evelyn. Anyone who knows Evelyn knows he's no pussycat. It's just a wonderful story and it's typical of my mother. Just to remind you, we said no flowers, but if you would like to contribute a little bit to her memory of her legacy, you've got these envelopes on the tables, and there is a website link. And we try to get this education work because we've got the gates, we've got the ceremony, we've got the kind of focus, but now we need to get the message out to schools and spread the word. We've come to the end of the formal bit, but I've got a bit of informal bit. So a few people have burst in to contribute as well, and if you allow me, we'll let us allow that to happen. So first of all, I'm going to invite a very, very, very old friend of mine from Oxford, Chinta Kelly, who would just like to sing a little bit in honour of Shreela.
Shreela, in my view, was a free and independent spirit who was not dictated by conventions. She was a force of nature, feisty, forthright, and irrepressible, an indomitable and vibrant personality. As you know, she oozed confidence and charm. And in my book, she defied all stereotypes, how Indian women worked in the 60s and 70s. As I said, she was anything but docile, surfacing, was shouting. And she navigated cultural divides with grace and ease, and just by being she. And I think we thought that she did what she did just by being Shreela. And furthermore, by being Shreela, she shifted misplaced perceptions and prejudices about Asian women and became inspiration, particularly for Asian women, even if some of us did not agree with her. Because I'm a cross-gender, she was a conservative. Well, and I think she, as we heard, she clocked many firsts. First Asian JP, local councillor, mayor and member of the House of Lords. And I think by clocking those first, and her achievements, she actually became a trailblazer, a blazer, and paved the way for many of us to achieve comfort. Her fearless and often controversial views won both admiration and disapprobation. Shreela ventured that others feared betrayed her. She challenged political correctness, spoke against Sharia law, and throughout her career, she continued to highlight the plight of women and doing all she could. And in that sense, she was a true inspiration for us. But I want to say a few words about Shreela as a person, because as everybody said, she was an enormous fun to be with and to be with. She was very good company and very mischievous. She loved intelligent with had a harmless flirtatious behavior, all within the truth of it about. She had a particular affection for Leslie, who struggled with it. And she would say to me, I'm having lunch with my boyfriend. Well, she had this girlish laughter. It was very endearing. Always forthright in telling what she loved, really what one was getting. Always offering the elder sister the advice. I remember once I was standing speaking like this, and she looked me up and down. And after it's finished, she got me. She says, I don't want to shoot big. When I joined the House of Lords in 1999, somebody introduced me to her. And she said, of course, I've known her for a long time, because when I got my first job at the registration board, she was on the board. And for me at that, it was very reassuring to have someone like her. I visited them out in my 20s. So when I joined the House, she said, 4 years, I know her when she was a slip of a girl. And what she meant was I was size 8 then. Anyway, despite the fact that she had to navigate life in very different and sometimes difficult circumstances, and she had to overcome obstacles and prejudices, not only in society at large, because I think there was discrimination, but also within her own community. She remained defiant. She was undeterred by criticism or negativity, and she retained that twinkle in her eye and a sense of humor, enthusiasm for life. I think we can all say that it was a life well lived, which touched so many of us and gave so much, so many. And today, as I say, we celebrate Shreela's life. I say in the words of Rabindranath Tagore, to obviously take her name, Shreela. He said, say not in grief, she's no more, but we say in thankfulness that she was.
Far beyond the walls of the British Parliament, I had the privilege of knowing her not only as a Baroness, but as someone who took genuine interest in others, including myself. Her strong personality and unwavering commitments to making a difference were not just confined to the political arena, but extended to personal commitments, connections. She saw potential in everyone, and in my case, she saw more than I saw myself. Have left an indelible mark on my life. Allow me to share a poignant moment that encapsulates the essence of the remarkable soul we are here to honor today. In 2019, amidst a whirling turmoil, we gathered at Warner Theatre in Washington, D.C., a concert dedicated to peace, love, and unity. She attended not as a political figure, but as someone who believed in the transformative power of music and universal language of harmony I can vividly recall the pride and happiness in her eyes as she witnessed 2,000 individuals get brought together freely, sharing a concert, experiencing of hope and togetherness. In that moment, she exemplified the values she championed throughout her life. A commitment to unity and in belief of positive change that can emerge when people came together with common purpose. As we remember her today, let us carry forward the spirit of that evening and strive to make the world a better place, just as she did with her unwavering dedication to peace, love, and unity. As we remember her today, let us carry forward the lessons she imparted, the belief in our capabilities, the determination to make a positive impact, and the strength to stand up for what is right. May her legacy inspire us to embrace challenges with courage and uplift, gather us to generously did, which she generously did. In honoring her memory, let us reflect on the profound impact she had on each of us and strive to continue the legacy of companion, strength, and purpose she leaves behind.
So you can get an idea of how inspiring she was to so many people. I should have said that she had a passionate love for the Gurkhas, and we were very privileged to have two members of the household servicemen with us at the service. Thank you for that, and thank you, Manjular, for helping us with that. And thank you also to the High Commissioner from Nepal, who has been with us today, Gyan Chandra Acharya. Now, the Indian High Commissioner also wanted to be here. I did ask for the Pakistan High Commissioner to come as well. One of Shreela's greatest attributes, and it's something that I indulge myself in as well, is that we're a Pakistan family from Nepal, but we shifted to Delhi and became an Indian family, so we can transgress that rather dangerous and awkward border with a greater comfort than most. And I think one of her great skills was being able to bring Pakistanis and Indians together, and therefore Muslims and Hindus as well. We have them well represented in this room. The High Commissioner, very brilliant chap, watch out for him, Vikram Goswami, wanted to be here. He's been assiduous in keeping in touch with me and wanted to see Shreela, and in the end we didn't quite manage it. And he wanted to be here, but he's been called away. But he has sent his chief counsellor. Is she still here? Yes. Okay. Umadab Iqbal, Muslim, there you are, who's going to read a few words. Yeah? Thank you. And then we'll go back to Party.
Hello everyone, my name is Iqbal. I'm counsellor at the Indian High Commission. And I will be reading a message from my High Commissioner, Mr. Vikram K. Swami. Dear friends and family of Shreela Flather, we offer our sympathies and condolences to her family and friends, and we join all of you in prayer for Shreela's soul. Baroness Flather will be remembered in this country for a long list of firsts, many of which would have been recalled with great affection and nostalgia at this moving ceremony. But it is perhaps equally important to emphasize the extraordinariness, at least to us in this 21st century, of the context in which Shreela Flather achieved so much in a more difficult, less equitable, and indeed less welcoming age.
I'm Keith Waters-Wood. I'm the president of the National Centre Society, and Shreela was a wonderful supporter of ours, particularly over women's rights, people who were of every religion or no religion. I'm not sure she was so happy about what's happening in India now, but nevertheless, she was a wonderful, wonderful woman who we can never replace. And I just wanted to say to the family, what a wonderful event this has been, and how grateful we should be to all of them for bringing us together in such a lovely, lovely location, and with so many people we love. So thank you very much indeed.
So we've enjoyed many reflections and reminiscences of Shreela's life, her character, the way that she would always pick up on something that you didn't expect. You'd walk into a room with her and she'd say, "Oh, that jacket's the wrong colour." And in a way, that was her way of saying to you that she liked you, she loved you. On your appearance, or the way you walked, or something very personal to you. I think realistically, it meant she cared about you. We heard from the Indian High Commission. I mean, to us all, I think that is incredibly meaningful, isn't it, Paul? That the Indian High Commission has sent the representative and has made an enormous tribute, because that tribute is not just from us, that is from representing the subcontinent of India. And Shreela was absolutely adamant that she wanted India to be represented in the UK and in Europe and internationally. So Theresa May, former Prime Minister, has did come to the first part of the party. Unfortunately, she couldn't stay, but she has a few words to say about Shreela. I'm not going to read all of it, and I'm not going to read it in the way that she would have said it, because I'm not going to be able to do that. But I can read some bits. She was never afraid to speak out. True champion of women's rights. I think we've heard that as a repeated theme this afternoon. And she worked with Asian women in the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead in Berkshire. And she really did have an affinity and an enthusiasm for ensuring that people were treated properly, and that was something that was very much part of her life. She never flinched from saying things as she saw them. She raised controversial issues of which others were afraid to speak out, like Sharia law, like arranged marriages, casteism, and she also spoke out against families having cousin marriages where children were sometimes at risk of inherited conditions because the families were too close together. Theresa May saw Shreela at local events, usually accompanied with Gary, and she continued to support the local community. She had a mischievous sense of humour. Again, we've heard that theme this afternoon. She was a force of nature, one of a kind, and we have a lot. We've lost a committed public servant and a much respected member of our local Maidenhead community. And she actually was very modern and forward-looking as a mother. Some of this is in retrospect, because when you are a recipient of that modern and forward-looking motherhood, it may not feel like it so much. But she did teach Paul and I to sew, to knit. Don't ask me to knit any now, but she did ask us to knit. Well, she taught us to knit, to cook. And I don't know whether my wife Ruth thinks my cooking is up to scratch, but I certainly know the basics, which really is helpful. And I see my good friend David Beale is here from university days. And Dave and I shared a flat for many years, so he and I shared the cooking alternate days. And I don't know whether we did one day or not. But anyway, she did teach me to cook. He's still here. Perhaps some of these skills also were to her benefit. Maybe the cleaning was to her benefit, I don't know. But she did ask us to clean each week. She also promoted independence. And I remember when I was about 7, she would put me on a bus from our flat. We lived then in Chelsea. and she would put me on a bus, 7-year-old, which sounds a bit odd today, and I would go on the bus, and the bus conductor would put me down or set me off at the Natural History Museum, and I would spend 2 or 3 hours looking around the dinosaur exhibits with a little packed lunch, and then I would get on the bus again and go home. I can't really believe that happened, but I certainly remember going with a small book of dinosaur pictures, then trying to match up the pictures to the actual exhibits. Anyway, it was a very, certainly reflecting on it, was a very nice experience. But I'm still here to tell the tale, so whatever she was thinking, I still managed to get through that. So there are some thank yous to extend on behalf of the family. I think first we should thank Shreela's long-term and devoted carers, Tracy O'Neill and Bernadetta Kotlash. And to all the other people that have cared for her over the years, and many of them are here. Ronnie Cook, Alice. I'm going to miss some out, so I'm going to make mistakes. But basically, anybody here who has been involved in Shreela's caring and support network, we thank you. And without you, she could not have done many of the great things that we've heard about this afternoon. So I'd like to clap again. And of course, we need to thank Paul, my brother. He was just eating something that was quite appropriate. So Paul has put in the majority of the work for making this afternoon a great success. He's supported by Alex, my son, and many others. So all of the speakers for giving up their time to prepare, to reflect on the fabulous insights, and for giving us many, many happy memories. William Smith, the piper, Prayag Kotecha, the flautist, and I hope Prayag and William will perform again, and Patricia Rosario, I'm not sure whether Patricia's still here, but for giving us that lovely song at the end of the funeral, so we'd like to thank them. The funeral directors, A.B. Walker, they were not just in the background, they were front and centre, and we worked very closely with them to try and make the funeral service something special, and they really helped us. The hotel, of course, have given us a wonderful venue. And finally, a huge thanks to all of you for being part of Shreela's life and for making this event truly special. Many of you have travelled long distances and from abroad, and we are grateful that you are here. She would have loved to be here in person chatting with you all. And so what I'd like to do, I haven't got a glass, but glass or no glass, let's propose a toast to Shreela. To Shreela.